Hey everybody, and welcome to Rabbit's Ramblings, podcast 354. This time I have a little bit to say about Evil Genius 2. As I was trying to think about stuff to say, I realize I'm probably not the greatest reviewer for it, as I don't play a lot of sim games, and I played probably about 200 hours of the first game. So since this was kind of what I expected, I found myself at sort of a loss as to what to talk about. So I guess I'll just ramble about some topics in general, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show.
Research has resumed.
So I guess I can start by saying Evil Genius 2 is the second game where you are playing as an evil genius in a sort of made-up parody of all the spy movies set in, I guess you could call it sort of a 60s/70s era time bubble. So all of the things you expect from movies that came out, I guess in the 70s and 80s, sort of playing at spy genre type adventure films is what you should expect to see in this game. It is a sim game, which I have played very few sim games. This is probably the only one I can think of besides, I think I played maybe like Sims 4 and the Dungeon Keeper games. They're super old, probably nobody knows what those are anymore. But that's pretty much all the sim games I've ever played. So I am by no means a sim game expert, but basically in this type of game you get money by doing various tasks, and with that money you build up your base by hollowing out a secret layer on the inside of a secret island. And when you build rooms, they do certain things. Like one of the early rooms you will get is a barracks, where putting more stuff in the barracks allows you to have more minions. And then you have a vault where you put all your money, and expanding the vault allows you to get higher capacities of saved up money. And then you build a control room, which gives you access to the global network. And then from there you can do various evil schemes, which get you money, and or special operatives, which unlock the various minion types that are, I guess you could say, advanced minions. Like one of the first things you'll do is build an armory, and then in that armory you'll put a couple prison cells and a interrogation chair, and then you will go to the world map, capture a guard, bring him back to your base, and then you will have guards. And this is where I'm kind of confused about how to explain the game, because the game is basically that. It is capturing special agents, unlocking the secrets of how to become that sort of agent, making those type of agents, building the rooms they need, building special devices to become, better and bigger and bigger and better, and so the game goes. So there is, of course, lots more to talk about in that regard, but basically that's the whole game, is you build stuff to make better stuff to become bigger and better, and thus eventually take over the world in whatever fashion your evil genius is set to do. There are 4 evil geniuses, and I think their end goal depends on which genius you are playing. I'm only like 2 hours into the game, so I don't know too much about their end goals yet. Usually a game of Evil Genius on Evil Genius 1 would take you pretty much 10 hours minimum, but it usually would take me about 20 hours in a game to sort of get to the end. But basically, you'll build up your base. You have various traps you can unlock, and then put those in the base, and as the forces of justice try and come to reveal you to the world and thus end your game, you will stop them with the base, defenses, and your minions, and your special minions. And it gets into this whole cool tangled network. I suppose I could go through and describe the various things. First, there are the graphics, which are amazing. My system does kind of get its butt kicked, but it doesn't have any real issues running the game. But I can tell by the amount of heat it's generating and the level it's running at, it is definitely pushing the system to run at high graphics. But it doesn't seem to struggle. It seems to have a solid frame rate, and the game looks gorgeous. You can zoom in to pretty ridiculous levels and see details on your minions, like what they've got in their pockets, and what do they look like. Or you can zoom out really far, and they're so teeny tiny you can barely see them at all. The sound is really great. If you were a fan of the original game's sound and music, they have the same composer, so it has that same sort of vibe to it. It all sounds super fun and appropriate. With Maximilian, a couple of abilities. I don't know if they get more than 2 abilities. Like I said, I'm only a couple hours into the game so far. With Maximilian, one seems to be activated, which drains a resource, and so you can only use that for so long before he's out of that resource and then needs to sort of chill and take a break. And the other one seems to be sort of a passive aura, I think, that just kind of happens. And then the other 3 geniuses have similar yet different abilities. I know the science one gives a boost to your scientists, and the former henchman Red Ivan has one that allows you to get more guard minions, I think. And speaking of henchmen, although I haven't come across them in my game yet, you do get to hire henchmen, which are sort of your own super evil companions, which will do your bidding, both inside and outside of the base. In the first game, you kind of needed to send at least one of your 2 henchmen off to do the hardest missions. So your base was just a little bit more vulnerable if you only had one on your base at any given time. Because as I said, the forces of justice will try and stop you, and so they'll invade your base. And of course, if they find your evil genius, they'll shoot him and pew-pew him and try and take him into justice. And if they are knocked out, that's it for your game. New to Evil Genius 2, which I like quite a bit, is a sort of research tech tree. And there are different divisions, and you can research them to different depths. So it does look very flexible in that regards as to how you want to sort of research and build your game forward. I would think, though, that some cross-research is necessary. Like the first unlock in, I think it's the minions section, will allow you to increase the amount of minions you can have, basically per storage thing that increases them. So your base becomes able to hold more minions with what buildings you have. You don't have to build more structures, you just research to improve the ones you have. And then there's a trap tree, which is where all of the special traps are. And I think there's a world tree, which increases your activities on the global scale. And there's one other tree, I forget what it is. But it all seems very flexible and cool that you can now spend time researching and unlock special things without actually having to just go and capture special units. You're researching, so you don't have to go anywhere, which going anywhere is always a risk of generating heat in the world. I can't really think of what else to say about it. Either you're a fan of sim games and you've heard about it or not. I think maybe it might generate some buzz for new fans who never played the original. But as a fan of the original, I would say, so far, having only played 2 or 3 hours, I think, I would say it was pretty much what I expected from a sequel. I haven't been surprised yet, but I also haven't been let down. It is basically just a reimagining of what Evil Genius would have been if it would have been created today instead of, I think it was like 15 years ago was the first one. But if you've ever had sort of an urge to build an evil base and take over the world, this is the game to do it. From the newsroom. So there's not really a news section per se. Basically, Evil Genius 2 is now out, obviously, because I'm talking about it. Outriders will be out by the time this podcast comes out, because it is releasing the day after I'm recording, so it will be out by the time you hear it. And I'll probably talk about it next time. That's really all I have for this time. It's a super short one. Like I said, I've only played for a few hours, and I don't really know how to sort of shape a review, since this is kind of exactly what I expected from Evil Genius 2. And I played so much of Evil Genius 1, I'm kind of having a hard time describing what it is. So I guess that's really it for this time. There's Bunny Day coming up this weekend, so hopefully everybody will have a super good and super fun Bunny Day. You know, it's kind of terrible with everything going on, but Bunny Day for me has always been kind of a solo/at-home holiday, so hopefully your plans are not affected too much by what's going on. I'm considering releasing the next podcast early, because like I said, Outriders will be out, and I'll be able to play starting tomorrow for me. So I don't know if waiting 3 weeks is really necessary to get a solid impression of it to talk about it. So I might release it in 2 weeks. I guess we'll see. But since I can't think of anything else to say, I will close it there, because it's like 85 today and I am sweating and roasting while I'm closed up in my car recording this. So I will be done and try and cool off. And hopefully I'll see everybody next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
You have been listening to Rabbit's Ramblings. If you would like to see the show notes or feed the bunny by sending a donation, you can find the show website at www.rabbit.com/podcast/rabbitsramblings.html. When you type Rabbit's Ramblings, don't use a space. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at rabbit@rabbit.com. If you like my page, you can also post on Facebook at rabb1t's. You can follow me on YouTube at rabb1t's. I have a page on Patreon at www.patreon.com/rabbit, RABB1T. You can set up a monthly recurring subscription there at a price point of your choice. Be sure to put the number 1 in place of I anytime you type rabbit. Rabbit's Ramblings is copyright Eric Stryker, using a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Derivatives License, 2021.